Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The Trump administration is about to hang the Mission Accomplished banner in the fight against the coronavirus. Today, the president confirmed the White House is winding down the task force charged with combating the virus, with Vice President Mike Pence citing the, quote, tremendous progress we've made as a country so far. Meanwhile, the president is encouraging states to end their lockdowns and shelter-in-place rules, even though, and this is a key point, they do not meet his own administration's guidelines to safely reopen, the ones that his administration put out from his CDC. And he's telling Americans who might be nervous about contracting the virus and dying if they go back to work or they go out in public or we go back to normal, that they need to think of themselves as warriors on the battlefield.
I'm viewing our great citizens of this country, to a certain extent and to a large extent, as warriors. They're warriors. We can't keep our country closed. We have to open our country. I'm not saying anything is perfect. And yes, will some people be affected? Yes. Will some people be affected badly? Yes. But we have to get our country open, and we have to get it open soon.
When he says we have to get our country opened, he means come what may. I personally don't think of the folks in, say, nursing homes as warriors that need to be sacrificed. But what the president seems to be saying is you're on your own. Thoughts and prayers. Sorry if you're one of those people who's badly affected. Think of yourself as a soldier dying for the cause. There's just this incredible disconnect here between the rhetoric from the president, even the sort of public discourse that he has helped kind of anchor with all these vanguardist protests you've seen, and the actual reality of the trajectory of the virus. Look at this graph from the New York Times. It's showing newly reported cases, okay? On the left is the New York metro area, right? That's the epicenter of our outbreak here in the U.S. And you can see the new cases in what has been the epicenter have been trending downward, which is great news. There is real progress. That shape of that curve is encouraging. But look at the chart on the right. That's the rest of the U.S. outside the metro New York epicenter. And you can say new cases are still growing. Now, to be clear, partly that is probably due to some increased testing in a lot of places. But the thing is, the curve's not even flat, really. I mean, new reported cases are going up. We don't really know for sure, but things may be even getting worse. At the best, they seem to be plateauing. And we've already lost more than 70,000 of our fellow Americans. We are almost certainly going to lose tens of thousands more. And the virus is manifestly not suppressed. The mission is obviously not accomplished, and it is becoming clearer and clearer that Donald Trump never even really tried to accomplish it. He just wants to open up the country so the economy can come back and can be reelected. Today, the man who was removed from his position leading the government's effort to find a vaccine, a guy named Dr. Rick Bright, filed a whistleblower complaint. We're going to get into the details of that complaint later in the show. But one of the big revelations is the administration refused to listen to early warnings about the virus. They just kind of ignored it, blew it off. That's a pattern, of course. From the very beginning, this administration has been contemptuous and distrustful of the actual experts in the government. They have opted instead to listen to cronies and relatives and donors and legacy cases and the buddies of the president. That's who they've turned to make policy, not the full institutional knowledge of one of the most powerful governments in the history of humankind. We saw it on full display during the president's impeachment. Remember when we found out that Trump huddled with Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman to hash out the American government's Ukraine policy? Remember those guys? Only now the exact same method has been applied to the biggest public health challenge in 100 years. And there are so many examples of the damage this has done. Like how the administration relied on a model from White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett, a man with no epidemiological experience, to plot out the course of the virus. And I should note here that Hassett's most famous moment in public life, infamous in fact, is writing and publishing a book called Dow 36,000 back in 1999. It is literally one of the most infamously bad economic forecasts of public life of the last 30 years. That guy, Kevin Hassett, that was the guy they had to model and predict the virus. And you will be shocked to learn that that guy, Dow 36,000 guy, was even more wrong about the virus. The Washington Post reported his model showed deaths dropping precipitously in May and essentially hitting zero by May 15th. By May 15th, 10 days from now. You think that's going to happen? That's what happens when you bring in Dow 36,000 guy. That's who the president was listening to. Just today, we learned about a complaint filed with the House Oversight Committee involving the coronavirus response effort coordinated by the president's son-in-law, who for some reason has a job doing this kind of thing because he's married to the guy who runs the country. And the complaint alleges, according to the Post, that man, Jared Kushner, that his effort, quote, relied in part on volunteers from consulting and private equity firms with little expertise in the tasks to which they were assigned, exacerbating chronic problems and obtaining supplies for hospitals and other needs. Part of the reason the volunteers had trouble establishing relationships with suppliers is because they were just using personal email accounts. Like just some rando over Gmail being like, hey, can you hook me up with some PPE? I'm working with the president's son-in-law. It's almost too ridiculous to believe. But this is what we got. This is what we've been getting for 3 years of this administration. And now, at this extremely perilous moment, amidst this national calamity, this global catastrophe, the so-called plan is to just let a lot of Americans die. Like warriors on the battlefield. And then try to paper over that. Or rather, as NYU journalism professor Jay Rosen put it, the plan is to have no plan, to let daily deaths between 1 and 3,000 become a normal thing, and then to create massive confusion about who is responsible. That's where we're headed. Because after the president botches this horribly and then reopens the country, he wants to basically wash his hands of the whole thing.